Folks, before we bring the jury in, I want to address one issue. We had a disruption in the proceedings this morning as a result of a laptop. I'm trying to make sure that that doesn't happen again. So if you have a laptop, you need to make sure you know what you're doing with it. I prefer you use the laptop outside of the courtroom, quite frankly. But I understand that the media is here and you have to do your reporting. But at the same time, I cannot tolerate any more disruptions as a result of equipment malfunction. So make sure that you turn the volume off on your laptops. Thank you. Ready for the jury?
Yes, sir.
Bring the jury in. All rise for the jury. Okay, you may be seated. You call your next witness.
Yes, sir. Say we call Priscilla Pringle.
Are you going to introduce this one?
Yes, sir.
You already sworn in? The witness has been sworn. Make sure you speak loud and clear into the microphone so everyone can hear what you have to say. Witness is seated, Your Honor. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon.
If I can have yourself, can you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name, please?
Priscilla Pringle, Pringle.
Ms. Pringle, where do you work?
Daytona Beach Police Department.
What do you do at the Daytona Beach Police Department?
I am a crime analyst.
Can you describe to the jury what a crime analyst does?
We investigate real-time and or past crimes or incidents that happen in Daytona Beach.
Could you give us an example of maybe something that you would do on a daily basis?
After information is done on the scene, it's sent to our criminal investigation unit, and I help investigate or help with the cases.
What about in reference to the license plate readers in the city? Do you also have a role with those, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what that role is?
So I log into that system daily, which is a running system daily throughout our county. And those hits come out, whatever comes through NCIC, FCIC, missing persons.
Now, I understand what you're talking about, but if we can slow it down and explain that to the jury. When you say if a hit comes down, first off, can you tell us what NCIC and FCIC?
So it's our national unit that, like, stolen vehicles, or if someone goes missing or you're reporting a crime, that vehicle will go in that system, meaning the tag will go in that system. And if it passes through one of our LPR systems, it will alert us.
And I think we've heard before an LPR is a license plate reader.
Yes, correct.
So is it a computerized system if the license plate reader reads a license plate that's already been entered into the NCIC system, it alerts you?
Yes. Yes, sir.
You don't have to go through every license plate that goes through Daytona Beach and try and look for it.
No, sir.
Okay. If I can bring your attention now to, it would have been June 23rd, 2021. Were you working that day, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Did there come a time where there was a license plate reader hit at Site 1 that you actually ultimately sent an email out about?
Yes, sir.
Can you approach the witness, Judge?
May.
I'm going to approach and show you what's been marked as states.
Yes.
That's states G.
Yes, sir.
Is this the email you sent out that day?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate reproduction or printout of that?
Yes, sir.
Anything seem to be changed or altered?
No, sir.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. At this time, Judge, the state would move in stage 2.
No objection. Without objection, will be admitted as evidence.
May I publish this here, Judge?
You may do so.
So, what we're looking at right here, if I can, the top line here, ma'am, is that from you?
Yes, sir.
Is
That's
that
fine.
your email address?
Yes, sir.
Now, the time you sent it on there, do you recall what time it was you sent it?
12:20.
12:20 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Who, now, if we look at the 2 line, it says 2 police department sworn officers. Do you know who's in that user group, ma'am?
All sworn police officers for Daytona Beach Police Department.
So any patrol officer in there, any detective would also receive that?
Yes, sir.
And basically, the subject then is in reference to, this is the tag, the CXV8444.
Yes, sir.
Now, in looking at this, are you the one who generates where it says stolen vehicle that keeps hitting site 1?
Yes, sir.
You just type that in there?
Yes.
And is that based on the license plate reader information being funneled to you?
Yes. Yes, sir.
And then the information about what kind of vehicle in the tag, is that you who enters that?
Yes, I typed that.
And also, it says here, stolen vehicle, Frenchies were in the vehicle when it was stolen.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what that meant or?
Oh, Frenchies are dogs.
Okay, so the information here was a stolen vehicle and there were dogs that were in the vehicle when it was stolen.
Yes, sir.
Now, we see this photograph right here. Where does that photograph come from?
Site 1, which is one of our license plate readers.
So that's an actual photograph from the vehicle going through the license plate reader?
Yes, sir.
And then if we look next to it where it says CXV844, is this an actual blow-up of the license plate?
Yes, sir.
As part of your job, though, do you have to verify that the license plate reader gets it correct?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Why is that? Is it wrong sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes it's wrong. And so we always verify once it hits. Check it, review it, run it, and then make sure it's accurate.
Okay. And down here, this is your signature line, Priscilla Pringle, Daytona Beach.
Yes, sir.
After you sent this email out on the 23rd at 12:20 p.m., did you receive any returned error messages or non-deliverable messages to that user group?
No, sir.
May I have just a moment, Judge?
Yes.
No further questions, Judge.
Any cross-examination?
Do you want this up there?
No.
Okay.
So 3-1. You may proceed.
Good afternoon.
Site 1, where is that located?
I'm International Speedway.
And does it tell you when the car would have hit Site 1?
Are you referring to?
As far as when you get, this car keeps hitting Site 1, what time did it hit Site 1?
If I sent the email out, I can't tell you the exact time it hit, but it had to be between 2 and 3 minutes.
From the time that you
He
sent it
sent
out?
the email out.
And you sent it to all sworn officers within Daytona Beach Police Department?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Lewis asked you if you got any undeliverables or anything like that back, correct?
Correct.
All right, did you get any read receipts from Jason Rayner?
I don't have receipts on my email.
So can you say here today that Jason Rayner ever opened up that email?
I cannot.
So can you say whether you even saw that email?
I cannot.
I have nothing else.
Thank you. Are you ready, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Will the witness be excused, state?
Excuse, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Everybody, subpoena and return to work. State, call the next witness, please.
The state would call Letitia Lamagna.
What's the name of the witness?
I'm sorry, sir?
The name of the witness?
Letitia Lamagna, Lemagna. Yeah.
Since she was already sworn, Judge.
Yeah, she was sworn earlier, for the record. Make sure you speak loud.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well.
Good. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Okay. My name is Letitia Lamagna. I'm the city clerk for the city of Daytona Beach.
And now your name is, just spell-wise, can you spell your first and last name? Tell
Sure.
us.
First name is Letitia. Last name is Lamagna. It's Lamagna.
What is your job duties as the city clerk of Daytona Beach?
Among other things, I'm the custodian of records for the city of Daytona Beach. That includes the police and fire department. And so my office also does the public record requests.
So are you responsible for the emails that would go through Daytona Beach Police Department?
If for a record request, yes, I would be responsible.
Were you asked to search through Officer Jason Rayner's emails sometime in June of 2022?
Yes, I was.
What were you asked to look for in those emails, ma'am?
I was asked to look for a Leo exempt email for a plate. It was CXV8444.
How do you go about doing that research through his email?
So we use what's called Microsoft Purview. It's a search mechanism to search through the city's exchange system.
So let me ask this question. All of the emails that are generated, received, or sent out from the Daytona Beach Police Department, are those stored in a cloud somewhere and then you have access to those?
Yes, they're stored in an exchange cloud.
And for Microsoft Purview, can you explain how you would go in there and locate Officer Rayner's emails?
So I can do what's called a content search. So it will ask me simple questions, usually like a keyword search. So I'll name the search, and then it will allow me to pick whether that's everyone in the cities, and that includes the police and fire, everyone's emails, or if I want to look in a specific email account. And I chose to look in his specific email account.
So you can funnel down from the entire emails to just a specific person?
Correct.
Are you able to further, filter through that by date and time?
I can filter through by date, and I can filter through by subject, which is what I did in this case.
When you ran the search for that CXB 8444, what did you? How many emails did you find?
In his, in Jason Rayner's, I found 2.
Okay. And do you remember what the dates of those were?
The one was from, I believe it was June 21st of 2021. That was from Volusia County, Abolo. And I found the second one that was submitted by Miss Pringle to all sworn department officers was the email address that it went to.
Approach the witness, Judge. I'm going to approach and show you what's marked as State H. You can take a look at that. Do you recognize that name?
Yes, I do.
Is that one of the emails, the one from the June 21st?
Yes.
You located in Officer Rader's email?
Yes.
Anything seem to be changed or altered about any set that is printed out?
No.
Thank you very much. Judge, this time the state move in states H.
Any objection?
No objection.
Without objection, the bid is settled.
Judge, may I publish to the jury? So, Ms. Lamaga, are you able to, you see this email here?
Yes.
Is this the June 23rd, 2021 email you located in Officer Rader's email?
Yes.
And now I'm showing you what's in evidence, I believe is States 5. Is that correct? Yes, States 5. Is this the other email you located in Officer Rader's email?
Yes.
And this was dated, it says VC3 bulletins, and it was dated June 21st, 2021 at 8:46.
Yes.
And specifically, when you searched, did it show this section right here in there?
Yes, it hit on the tag, the CXV8444.
Can you read what this, just read it out loud for the records we have there?
Attempt to locate stolen vehicle, Ormond Beach. On June 21st, two unidentified suspects stole the victim's gray 2014 Honda CRV bearing Florida temporary tag CXV8444 from the parking lot of Econo Lodge located at 1614 North US 1. The victim's vehicle was left unlocked and running and also had 8 French bulldogs inside. The suspects are described as a black female and a black male in their 20s. See bulletin, stolen vehicle.
Now, when you ultimately went into Officer Rader's, well, let me back up to this email right here. This email that Ms. Pringle sent out, were you able to go back in Ms. Pringle's email to see if there was any responses from her to other officers or other officers indicating they received this?
I was able to find one officer, at least one officer that responded back to ask what Frenchies were.
So the indication there was that officer received it and then responded.
Responded back within
Okay.
a minute or two.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to show you. Well, let's talk about the method of once you go into Microsoft Purview. How do you export the data of the emails so that it's usable or you can read it?
So once the software has completed the search, it allows me to download the emails in what's called a .pst format.
And for the jurors, a PST format, is that something that you can download into your Outlook and open up?
Yes, you have to open it up in Outlook. I can't just click on it and open it from my computer.
What you can just describe, I'm sure most of the jurors are aware of what Outlook is, but can you just tell us just what Outlook is?
So for the city of Daytona Beach, they use the Microsoft Outlook email service. So each one of us have an email account, and we use Microsoft Outlook to open our emails that come through the account, through the Exchange system.
Now, I'm just going to show you, for demonstrative purposes, looking at a email. Is this what an officer's Rader email would have looked like when you opened it up in the Outlook?
When I provided it, yes, to the officers.
Correct. And then, so specifically,
Objection, Your Honor.
Yeah.
No, this is PST file, the actual from their system. I was gonna have her do it in court. Should take 15 minutes. Okay, so, and I can certainly have her do it in court if we need to.
We got your honor? Okay, and, all right, so you're raising a discovery matter.
Yes.
I get what is on the screen right now.
I'm trying to get in a position where I can see you, Your Honor. Yeah, we've never received a copy of this. It shows the PSTAS download. It shows an email from Jason Rayner's email account from Priscilla Kringle and Volusia County Crime Center, but we've never received this discovery.
Okay, state.
Judge, this is just what Ms. LaMagna utilized to provide us the documents we sent to everybody. Instead of her having to step me down and take like 20 minutes in court and generate the file and show them where it is on there, we just had it ready to go. If the court wants us to, we can have her walk through the whole process. She can show how she would go through it normally.
So you never produced this item for the defense?
Right, we're not putting this into evidence, we're just showing how she loaded it in there and would look at it.
The other thing, Your Honor, is it looks like in looking at his mailbox, he has only 2 items in the mailbox. So that's all he would have seen is those 2 things.
And this is for Officer Ringer's mailbox?
Correct, and I can have her explain and we can open up.
It's
Loaded in. It's not. But you have to load it into your Outlook, so it's loaded in Outlook here on the screen. But what I was gonna say is, we can have her upload the whole thing. There's, I think, what would you say, 14 emails that day?
As I believe I can upload them into your computer.
Never received any.
Well, I guess I have to conduct a Richardson hearing. Obviously, information was not provided beforehand. What exactly are you trying to show? I'm not sure what exactly you're trying to prove by this.
I'm just showing that when it was received by Officer Rainey, based on when she loads it in the email. That's it. I can ask her and just shut the exhibit down.
This is Jason's, he's using his email as a document.
I think this is kind of material stuff. It's at the very heart of what we're doing here. So, how does that prejudice the defense in any fashion?
Well, Your
I
Honor,
mean, you've known that the email was sent.
we knew the email was sent. I knew that he said that it was there, but it looks like when you look at that, it's like, oh, he has 2 emails in the inbox, even though they're going to try to explain that, no, there's all these other emails, but there's 2 emails. And then it's other, also it's not even his box, it's Jason Lewis's box. And I understand you have to download it to Outlook, but it's not downloaded to Ms. LaMagna's box, and so it just gives it the identity that he obviously saw.
I'll sustain the objection to countenance.
Okay, I'll just have her
You wanna
explain
have
it,
her
Judge.
do whatever she needs to do. Don't know if she can, but. Okay, you ready for the jury?
Yes, sir.
Give me your email. Sustain the objection. Wait, hold on. Can you jump the ball for just 1 second? How long is it gonna take you to do what you want to do?
Probably about 15.
15 minutes?
15 to 20 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
We had it
If
set
I
up where
can-
she could do it in here if she wanted to, but it took a long time practicing.
Well,
If they want us to, we can.
I guess, have a seat. What we'll do is go ahead and try to load up whatever it is you're gonna load up.
I'm not gonna load up anything else, Judge. I'll just have her explain what she did.
Oh, so you're not gonna put it up?
I won't even put it up, Judge.
Okay.
But as I say, even if she's able to open it up and show it from her computer or whatever computer, we never received it. So it doesn't matter what she's able to pull it from her computer now or his computer and show to us, we've never received it.
Well, she testified to this.
And she did a deposition with them.
So I'm surprised that you guys are, I guess you're prejudiced by the fact that there's no image of it. But she testified at the last hearing, and I know what she said at the last hearing.
Right, and
That she could see that it was in his box. She couldn't tell whether it was open or not. I think that's the
That's-
ultimate conclusion.
that's the ultimate
So
conclusion.
I'm surprised that you say you're somewhat prejudiced, but I recognize that. I think it was misleading just to have 2 items in a box that probably had, as she's saying, 14 items. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, so, but I think she's entitled to explain whatever she's gonna explain. So if you're not gonna put it up,
No, I'll just have her explain it, Judge.
then we're ready for the jury. Bring Received, Your Honor. Thank you.
May I approach, Judge? I'm going to show you what is in evidence of case 5, which is the email about the license plate reader, the one from June 23rd, 2021. Have you had an opportunity to see what time that might have been received in Officer Rader's email? Can you tell us what time that was, ma'am?
12:20 p.m.
Have you had an opportunity to look at Officer Rader's email on the 23rd, the full, all the stuff, you know, even including the stuff that doesn't have anything to do with that you were searching for?
I did do a search where I just searched for the date and not for the specific tag number. Yes.
Did he have multiple emails in his email?
Yes.
Was there, and when I say multiple, are we talking more than 10?
Around 10 or 13.
Did you look at those other emails around the time window of his, when he received this one at 12:20, and to see if he received emails subsequently after?
Yes, I looked to see if he received emails subsequently after. And
Could
he,
you speak up and get closer to the
I'm sorry. Yes, I did see that he received emails after that.
And those were emails after. Was there also emails before that he received?
Yes.
And you can't tell based on your search though whether or not Officer Rader opened it. You can just tell us that it was received in his email.
Correct. I can only tell whether it was received. I can't tell if it was read or not.
Just have one moment, Judge.
Yes. Can you repeat that?
No further questions, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Useful officer defense.
Listening to a cat.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello.
So, all you can tell us is that there were two emails received by Jason Rayner, one on June 21st and June 23rd, right?
Correct.
And you went in through this whole elaborate process to pull that out, right?
Correct.
Wouldn't it be easier just to open up his email and look and see if those emails are there?
I would have to, you would have to log in as Jason Rayner in order to go into his account outside of through the exchange system.
And then once you logged in to Jason Rayner's account, you'd be able to look and say, that was open, that wasn't.
I can't make a comment on that. I don't
Well,
know.
when you open up an email, it
Uh-huh.
shows it as being opened, right?
Correct.
So you'd assume that most email systems work that way.
I believe so,
But
yes.
instead of going and looking and see if he actually opened them, it's rather just relying on the fact that, well, he received it, so yes, it's open. Right?
No, all I'm testifying to is that he received it. I'm not testifying to anything else.
You have no idea whether he opened it or not.
Do not.
Nothing else, Your Honor.
Yes.
Just briefly, Judge. Ma'am, just so we're clear, you can't just go into Officer Rayner's email and enter his password. You actually have to do it the way you do it, right?
Yes, I have to go in through the back end. So like the exchange would be like a cable box, and the Outlook that we all use would be like your TVs. It's actually coming through the exchange.
Right, so when the defense says you can just log into Jason Rayner's email and look at that, you don't have access to
No, I do not.
it.
Somebody else must have access to his computer, though, don't they?
That I don't know.
Thank you very much. May it witness the excuse statement.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You are released from this evening. Thank you. Stand by your next witness.
He's calling Taisha, Your Honor, Taisha.
Aisha Lewis,
They're going together.
And the other witness was not sworn earlier.
no,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
Lewis, step out of brief. So right here, face the clerk, raise your right hand, be sworn in. Just in the course of.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in this proceeding, so help you God?
Yes.
We'll do it with that.
Good afternoon. Make sure you speak loud and clear into the microphone. So you mind leaning forward a little bit, and I want to hear what you have to say. You proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, ma'am. You gotta talk really loud, though.
Hi, how are you?
Good, ma'am. Can you tell us your name and spell your last name?
Yes, Taisha Lewis. Last name is Lewis.
And how do you spell your first name, too, ma'am?
Tyesha.
Ms. Lewis, do you know Othal Wallace?
Yes,
How do you know Othal Wallace?
he's my kid's father.
How long have you known him for?
About 7 or 8 years now.
Where were you living back on June 23rd, 2021?
On Kingston in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Do you know the address?
133 Kingston Avenue,
Was that an apartment there?
apartment number 8.
Who did you live there with?
Me and my kids.
Did Mr. Wallace sometimes stay there?
Yes,
Back then on June 23rd, 2021, were you working, ma'am?
I was.
Where were you working at?
I was a manager at McDonald's.
What was your normal shift?
I was an opening manager, so I would go in around 4 or 5, get off at 2 o'clock p.m.
That specific day, did you go into work?
Yes,
Got off right around 2, 2:30?
yes,
Was Othal Wallace also working at McDonald's?
yes.
Do you know what shift he would work?
He was also opener, but he got off a little bit later than me. So I can't remember his exact schedule for that day, but
Sure. When you got off, what did you do that day?
my daughter was in gymnastics at the time, so we went home, showered, got her dressed for gymnastics, and we left to Port Orange.
Did you have contact, did you see Othal Wallace at work that day?
Yes,
Is that the last time you saw him that day?
yes.
Subsequent or after, when you left for gymnastics with your daughter and stuff, did you have any phone contact with Othal?
No, the only thing was he said that he was going to go see his daughter to bake some cupcakes or something, and that was the last time we talked.
Tell us what happens after gymnastics.
After gymnastics, we went home. She's sweaty, bathed again. I had a drink, and we went to bed.
Did there come a time where you got woken up in the middle of the night?
Yes,
Or not in the middle of the night, but in the evening, night hours?
yes.
Can you describe what happened and what would get you?
I just heard a bunch of commotion. My apartment complex, the walls are very thin, so if someone walks by or if there even a car pulls in, normally I can hear it. So I just heard a bunch of commotion, a bunch of yelling, a bunch of running backwards and forth. I thought it was maybe a fight or something going on in the parking lot. So I went to the window just to see what was going on. Couldn't really see. I went outside, and that's when I realized what was going on.
What did you see going on outside there?
I just heard someone yelling, we need towels, we need towels. He's bleeding, we need towels. So I was like, well, I have a bunch of towels. Like, what's going on? You guys need towels. So I brought out a towel or two, and then I hand the towel to the person. I put that straight, I'm guessing. And then I kind of like looked down, got scared, and ran back in my house.
Did you see any police out there at that time?
I saw a police car.
Okay. Did you stay in your house at that time?
Yes.
Did there come a time where an officer knocked on your door?
Yes.
Do you remember talking to that officer?
I don't remember what was said, no.
Okay. What kind of vehicle did Othal Wallace drive?
I don't remember what it's called, but it's an SUV.
Is it a Honda SUV?
I believe so.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yes.
Maybe I'm going to show you what is marked for identification purposes as AA. May I approach it? Can you take a look at these first several photographs? Does that appear to be car that Othal Wallace would be driving at that time?
Yes, the color looks a little bit different, I guess, from the light, but yes.
So the photograph in this picture is just the lighting is off, but this does look like a vehicle to drive.
Yes.
Do you know whose vehicle it was?
I'm not sure. I don't believe it was his. Probably someone he knows. I'm not sure.
Are you gonna be using? the-
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, somehow you muted the one camera.
I think we pulled it.
I just, it's okay, it's okay.
It's right here.
Did it come loose?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I see that.
No, the video has to be restarted. Okay, it's on.
After the officer came to your door and you spoke to them, do you remember trying to call Othal Wallace to try and locate him?
No, I don't remember.
Okay. May I approach the witness, Judge?
Ma'am,
I'm going to approach and show you what's marked as states. Take a look at that, see if you can recognize that. Okay. Is this a fair and accurate depiction of the vehicle that Othal Wallace was driving?
Yes.
And obviously, this is a screenshot from some device. You didn't take this photo, but this is the vehicle you drive.
Yes.
And can you tell by looking at the photograph, is that Othal Wallace in the photograph? Okay. Judge, at this time, the state would have states. No objection.
without objection, admitted to evidence.
And now I'm showing you what's in evidence of state 7. This is Othal Wallace's vehicle?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And the person sitting in the driver's seat, that's Othal Wallace?
Yes.
Does this look like it's in the parking lot where you live in? If you can tell, I don't know if you can.
It's kind of dark, but yes.
approach the witness, Judge? I'm going to approach and show you what's marked as State's Q. Are you able to identify me with this photograph?
Yes.
Is this Othal Wallace?
Yes.
Does this time the statement move in State's Q?
No, sir. Without objection, admitted as evidence.
I'm now showing you what's marked as 8A in evidence. Is this the photograph? Can you identify who's in that photograph?
That's my baby's father, Othal Wallace.
Okay. And then in 8B, is this also Othal Wallace?
Yes.
Approach the witness, Judge. I'm going to approach and show you what's marked as State's K. No, R. I'm sorry, State's R. You take a look at that. Have you listened to this CD before?
Yes.
Okay. And the voice says on there that Othal Wallace.
Objection, lack of foundation. Leading witness to suggest the contents of the file without us knowing them.
Well, the rule as to the leading, can you lay a little pressure for that?
I can, Judge. She's listened to this recording and she's going to identify the voice on it. We're not going to move
I
it.
will rule it for now. Go ahead and finish the practice.
Have you listened to this CD, ma'am?
Yes.
How do you know you listened to the CD?
Because I signed it.
Okay, so you're
Make sure
saying,
you keep up the voice up.
I'm sorry, because I signed it.
and you dated it,
Yes.
and the voice on the CD, is that Othal Wallace?
Yes.
That's all, Judge.
Is that moment, Judge? No further questions. I'm gonna move it. Oh, you want to use it? Yeah, yeah. Just.
You lived in apartment 8 with Mr. Wallace, is that correct?
With my kids. He comes over to see his kids.
Okay. Did you live there with as of a few months? Were you living with him there?
Like I said, I live there with my kids, and he comes over to see his kids.
Have you been, were you ever residing in that apartment complex, that apartment number 8 with Othal Wallace? Would you characterize it as residing in that apartment?
I don't understand the question.
Would you agree that you were residing, meaning living there full-time with Othal Wallace for 3 months as of June 23rd, 2020?
No.
Okay. Do you remember having your deposition taken on May 24, 2022?
No.
Okay. Would you, Your Honor, may I approach? Okay. I'd like just to perhaps refresh your recollection, I'm going to direct your attention to the bottom of page 7, line 25, over to line 6 on page 8. Okay? Do you agree? Can you your deposition hearing on that?
Yes.
And then I'll give you page 7. All right. You can just go ahead and read. Again, it's line 25 on page 7 to line 8. Or excuse me, line 6 on page 8.
Did I get you enough to?
You can just read yourself in. I'm sorry, I wasn't fair with that.
Oh.
agree that the truth of the matter is back in June of 2021, you two, you and Othal, were residing together at 133 Kingston Avenue, apartment 8?
No, I probably said it wrong, but in those 3 months, he's in and out all the time.
You would agree with me that on May 24, 2022, you showed up for your deposition, right?
Yes.
I think we went in person. You remember that? We at the state attorney's office.
I don't remember.
Do you remember being sworn to tell the truth?
If I don't remember the actual situation, then how could I remember that?
Okay, do you agree that the specific question that I asked you was as follows on page 7, line 24? Back in June of 2021, you two were residing together at 133 Kingston Avenue, apartment number 8. Do you agree that I accurately read the question that I
Yes.
asked you? Okay. Would you agree with me that that's a very straightforward question?
Yes.
Okay. And your answer was yes.
Yes.
Okay. And your testimony here is different than the testimony that you provided on May 24, 2020.
Yeah, it's definitely different because that's not accurate.
So now your testimony is that he was just staying there sometimes.
Right, to see his kids. He's always in and out, traveling, doing whatever he does.
Regardless, it is the case that he was welcome in this
Oh,
parking lot
absolutely.
on June 23rd.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. It wouldn't be unreasonable for him to be in that parking lot because from time to time he's safe.
Right, of course.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page with that. And you have 2 children in common with Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
He worked that day, it seems like the same hours you worked?
Yeah, well, sometimes. It all depends.
But on June 23rd, y'all got off around, what, 2:30?
I got off at 2 o'clock.
Do you know what time he got off that day?
I do not.
And would you have gone back to the apartment with him after the work shift and had some interaction there?
No.
Okay, you two parted ways?
Correct.
Um, and the last time you would have seen him would have been at work at McDonald's?
Correct.
And then you said you had a phone call with him prior to everything coming to light with what happened in the parking lot, right?
It was a text message of him letting me know that when I got back from gymnastics practice, he wasn't going to be there because he was going to be with his other child.
Gotcha. And was that the case when you got back? He wasn't there yet?
Correct.
Do you know approximately what time you got back?
I would say no later than 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock.
And at 5, he's not back, but that doesn't alarm you because he told you that.
Right, he let me know he wasn't going to be there.
And in terms of this particular screenshot, there's a time on the top right hand side of things, right?
Yes.
And this is in military time. It says 2050.
Right.
Did you know that Mr. Wallace was in the parking lot at that time?
I did not. I was inside sleeping.
Ma'am, a few moments ago, Mr. Lewis had asked you some questions about a photograph of the vehicle that Mr. Wallace was driving that night, right?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach this? I'm just approaching with one of the composite exhibits, and then I'm also, that hasn't been entered, it's IDAA, and then I'm also approaching the witness with what has been entered as exhibit 5. I think previously you had identified this as being consistent with your understanding of Mr. Wallace's vehicle. Do you have your observation of the rear lights on the vehicle?
In the picture,
Yes.
I see one side, not the other.
Okay. In terms of that, like, do you see that pretty clearly?
Yes.
All right, and then do you see anything on top of the vehicle, any kind of distinguishing characteristic?
That I would recognize the car.
Yes. What do you see on the top?
On the top, I see whatever that little triangle thing is.
And let's just go with the triangle thing and start there. So on,
If I'm going to object, this is the province of the jury to compare the photographs and make a determination. Not Ms. Lewis is not an expert.
I'm not asking for an answer, and I'm merely asking for her observations of two photographs. Do you see the same thing on the top in exhibit 5?
No.
And how about the rear lights? Do you see the lights look different?
Yeah, they're completely different.
And how long did it take you to discern the connection? Like about 1 second? Thanks. in this parking lot here, if I was driving down Kingston Avenue, there would be no way for me to even know what was going on at this location if I'm driving down Kingston, right?
Correct.
Right. And in terms of the orientation from the front of this vehicle to the apartment, can you tell the jury a little bit about how far that is?
Well, the parking lot is very small compared to where the car parks in the building. It's not really that far. The parking lot is pretty small.
And in turn, is the orientation of this vehicle such that if Mr. Wallace were to walk out, would he basically walk straight across the parking lot and enter into his unit?
Correct.
Okay. I know I've been there in the past, but just to give a little bit of a reference, is the distance between the parking lot and where you would enter into the apartments much further from where I'm standing to the wall that's behind you?
It's about the same distance. It's that small.
And there's a car that's right next to this vehicle, right? In the picture below, right? And have you parked in this parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your experience when you park in this parking lot that the distance between one car and the other is quite cramped, maybe an arm's length?
Yeah, it's very close.
Okay. And have you ever opened up your car door when there's been a car on
Yes.
the other side of you? Is it possible for you to get beyond the open car door with another car next to you?
No, it's so small that I have to tell my kids, be careful, you're going to hit the car next to you when you open the door. Very small.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, if we look at this photograph right here, can you see the taillights?
No, see the front of the car.
Right, so the taillights are behind the car, right?
Yes.
Abutting the shrubbery that's all back there that covers up whatever's back there?
Yes.
Okay. And you can't see the antenna there, can you, ma'am?
No, it's too dark.
Thank you. No further questions.
Ma'am, is there a traditional parking curb right behind the vehicle? Do you notice that in the bottom left-hand side of the...
Yes, there's like the little parking, little home.
And then there's some space, maybe a couple feet between the parking curb and the shrubbery?
No, there's no space.
Okay. There's not any space between this curb and the shrubbery there?
No, it's like if you step past the curb, you're going to be in the, like hitting the fence pretty much.
And do you see anything in this particular picture that would obscure one's ability to look at the passenger side of the vehicle?
No, it's clear.
And if one was coming up to the passenger side of the vehicle, they would have an observation of those rear taillights that you would
I'm going to object as to speculation, Judge.
Nothing further.
I don't have any rereader. She's excused, Judge.
I'm sorry?
Yes, Your Honor. She's excused.
Hold on, man, hold on.
Today we'll call Sergeant Joseph first.
I'm just fixing those.
WD-40 or something.
Sorry?
Maybe we'll get some WD-40 or something.
It's painful.
There, Kenny's name.
The witness was sworn earlier. You should speak loud and clear into the microphone, please.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Would you please introduce yourself to the folks in the court?
My name is Joseph Michael Sir. I work for Daytona Beach Police Department.
In what capacity? What's your rank?
I'm a patrol sergeant,
How long you been with Daytona Beach PD?
a little over 21 years.
And is it all your, has your entire law enforcement career been with Daytona Beach PD?
It has.
Okay. How about walking us through a little bit the various positions you've had and what you've done in your 21-plus career as a law enforcement officer?
Originally started in patrol, did that for about 2.5 years. I went to street crimes, which was a low-level narcotics, vice crimes thing. And then to special investigations unit, which was narcotics also, but mid to upper level stuff. And then I went to the high-intensity drug trafficking areas task force. Basically, it's a group of cities in the county, and they work upper-level narcotics investigations. And then in 2020, I was promoted to sergeant.
So tell me, what does the sergeant with the Daytona Beach Police Department do? What are your duties and responsibilities?
Well, you'll have a platoon of officers on nights, so they're usually a little bit younger. We train them, you review the reports, supervise calls for service that they're on, assist with competency calls for service, counsel them if they need it, mentor them, try to create a positive morale for the shift.
Did you know Officer Jason Ranger?
I did.
Was he on your shift?
He was.
Were you his supervisor?
I was.
And were you his supervisor for the entire time since you became sergeant until he was shot on June 23rd, 2021?
I was.
Were you working the night that he was shot?
I was.
Were you a supervising sergeant that night?
I was.
Did you have any contact with him that evening before he was shot?
Maybe in passing. No real conversations I recall.
Okay, so you don't recall any content of any conversation,
No, sir.
correct? Okay. And talk to us a little bit about his area of responsibility, or where he was assigned and where he might wind up.
We have 8 different zones within the district, and we go from the railroad tracks to the beach. And in between, we also have the river. So we have the Ridgewood units, we call it, and then we have the beachside units. So on the Ridgewood side, on the north end, you got 56 zone, 57 zone, and 58 zone. And then, so any unit that you have they're usually Charlie 50 something. But we also have 70 units that we use that are the more senior guys that have a little bit more empowerment to go to both sides of the river to help out on calls or to do other things.
Is that was that the situation with Officer Jason Rainer?
Yes, he was 77.
So he was free to move about in different zones?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the area where Officer Jason Rainer was shot?
I am.
Had you been there before?
I am.
Was the location known to you?
Yes. It's a high crime area. We'd recently had a rash of shootings and also a known narcotic location. So there's been complaints generated by the public in that area, along with other incidents that we responded to.
Place you needed to have a police presence?
Yes.
Would you consider the area, the parking lot where you found Officer Jason Rayner, is it secluded?
Yes.
Not visible from the road?
It's not.
Little or no lighting back there?
Yes.
Did you consider it part of Officer Rayner's responsibility to patrol areas like that?
Absolutely.
Now, it's a high crime area with shootings that are going on. Is that something that you and your officers face typically on a daily basis?
The shootings, maybe not on a daily basis, but quite often, yes, we deal with some violent crime, probably on a daily basis.
I want to touch briefly on a BOLO regarding a stolen vehicle. Are you familiar with license plate readers?
I am.
And are you familiar with how they work as far as reading license plates? And would you agree, or is it true that these license plate readers have the ability, amazing ability actually, to capture a tag number and then put it in some kind of database?
Yes.
And did they also check that database to see if somehow that particular tag or whatever it might be was input in there for some reason?
Yes, it does.
Now, let me talk to you about that a little bit. Did you use that database, or to help? What was your proficiency with pulling up that database and looking into it?
I was given access to it. I hadn't really learned how to use it, but I knew some of the other officers that did, and I would rely on them to help me with it.
And what about Officer Jason Rayner? Did he help you with it?
Yes.
Did he appear to know what he was doing?
He knew how to operate the system.
Objection, speculation.
Did he help you?
He helped me. If I needed something, I would go to Jason if it was having to do with LPRs.
And is it your understanding the BOLO was distributed by email?
Yes.
Was it distributed in other ways too?
It was sent out through our, we call them MDTs. It's a mobile transport. It's our computer, and it's the system. They were sent out through that, and then also over the radio.
So it was actually broadcast over the radio?
Yes.
And I assume all the folks on patrol working that evening, their radios were operational?
Yes.
And was this BOLO that we were talking about, was the vehicle described? In
Yes.
the BOLO, it operates some kind of description.
It was given out by description over the radio, and then, you know, on the MDTs, it would just list the description of it, and then on the email is actually a photo of the back of the vehicle.
What about Officer Rayner? You said he was proficient with the LPRs in the database. What about his emails? You were the supervising sergeant. Did you have occasion to observe if he was conscientious or not about checking his emails?
He was, because oftentimes I would send out emails to them. He would respond to them. I've been with him at his vehicle when he had his emails up.
Is the purpose for sending out any BOLO to the officers so that those officers will be aware of it and on the lookout for it themselves?
Yes, Actually, BOLO stands for Be on the Lookout, so that's why it's being sent out. Keep an eye out for it.
So looking for a BOLO, or looking for, whether it's a vehicle, a missing person, whatever it is, that's, you consider that part of within the scope of the duties and responsibilities of a police officer?
Yes,
A good thing?
absolutely.
Seeking to prevent crime, proactive policing?
Correct.
Did there come a time when you became concerned for Officer Jason Rader's safety?
Yes.
Did it have to do with the radio and him calling out? Didn't respond, is that correct?
He did not respond.
And that's a red flag, right?
Correct.
So, do you have the capability, to know where your officers are?
Yes.
How tell us about it.
There's a system called Force Watch. It's throughout the county. So all the vehicle computers have a GPS plugged into them. So on my computer, I can see where my officers' vehicles are located.
Okay. Were there efforts to reach out to Officer Rayner on the radio?
Yes, we called, there's some officers that called, and then dispatch called them again, no response. I told dispatch to put out an alert tone, which gives us radio silence, and then they do the loud to get anybody's attention in case you didn't hear it. You can hear them. And then no response.
Oh, you said an alert tone. Does that tone, what's the purpose of that for the folks that hear? The police officers that hear?
Yeah, we're trying to locate somebody, or occasionally they can do it before a big call comes out. But the alert tone is in case, you're talking to somebody, you might not hear your radio, or the volume might have gone down, but you hear the beep, beep, beep. And they get your attention, like, oh, what's going on? And then you realize they'll call your call sign again, and you're like, oh, they're talking to me, I'm code 4.
Were you able to determine a likely location for Officer Jason Ray?
Yes, from the Force Watch system, it appeared that his vehicle was behind the building at 133 Kingston. Force Watch. Force.
Just briefly, do officers, police officers, you, your squad, your crew, your platoon, do y'all have the capability of talking on the radio in the vehicle itself?
Yes.
And also on foot?
Yes.
And that's with would that be a portable radio that you're equipped with?
Yes.
Is that like the one you've got there on you're wearing now?
Yes, sir.
And is that a microphone on your shoulder?
It is.
Okay, and if you want to transmit, with that, you're outside of your car, interacting, whatever it is you're doing, you want to transmit, do you use your hand in order to transmit?
Yes, you have to come up and press the button on the side, hold it down, you hear a beep, and then you broadcast.
And you have to hold it down until you're done.
Correct.
Broadcast.
Yes.
Where were you when you heard or you got concerned about Officer Jason Rayner and you started this Force Watch or looked in that application to locate him? Where were you?
I was at the Beachside Precinct handling some of my admin duties on my computer. So it's just on the other side of the river.
Okay, and a precinct is like a substation or an office for the police department?
Yes.
It's not the headquarters?
No.
But it's for that area or vicinity?
Yes, for District
Okay.
2.
And so what did you do at that point, Sergeant?
When I saw where he possibly was, I put that out over the radio to tell the guys that were responding. We had everyone heading that way. And then I went immediately to my vehicle and started that direction.
Did you get that?
Yes.
So, once you arrive, what's your mission or your goal? What are you trying to accomplish?
To find out, to make sure he's okay if he needs assistance. We were on our way there to help an officer.
Okay, and what happened when you got?
On the way there, one of the officers had transmitted that we had a gunshot wound to the head. I arrived. There were 2 officers on scene. I was talking to them, trying to get whatever information they had from him, because he was still talking to us somewhat, and trying to come up with a suspect. But at the same time, I was more worried about getting rescue there. So it's simultaneous, both things we needed to have happen to get him to the hospital.
I know this might sound like a silly or stupid question, but that was very traumatic was that very traumatic for you, what you were witnessing at that time?
Definitely a traumatic event for everyone involved.
For everyone. So, did you try to clear a way for a rescue to be able to get into this area?
Yes, I put it out over the radio to make sure that because a lot of times when we come in and we get to a call, everybody's quick to get there and we're parking our cars everywhere. And we have to go back out to move the vehicle so we can let the emergency personnel in. It's just usually how it happens. I was quick to put it over the radio, make sure it's clear. We wanted to get them in there quick. And then told another officer to go out there and also make sure that they could get in there unabated by vehicle.
Okay, and then what about once Officer Jason Rayner was taken and put in the ambulance, did you help clear away an escort, so to speak, so that he could get to the hospital as soon as possible?
Yeah, we told evac that we would block off the intersection, so another officer and I would go ahead of rescue and block off the north side and the south side traffic, so they didn't have to slow down, they could go through and then piggyback again and head up in front of them so they can make it to the hospital.
And evac, that's the ambulance service?
Yes, sir.
Call it evac? Okay. Now, there's another important thing that needs to be done at this point in time, right? Now that you know that Officer Jason Rayner has been shot in the head, and you're trying to figure out what happened, right?
Yes.
So what do you do?
Well, at the time, we were trying to get into his phone because we have the Axon cameras that are attached to our chest. You don't have, the individual that it's assigned to has access to it through a phone app. You can go in there and actually view your videos while you're writing your report, or that you can put in the case number and things like that. So initially we were trying to get to unlock Jason's phone. We weren't able to do that, so I sent the Axon camera with Officer Sizemore to the precinct, and that's where you're able to dock it. We have a secure closet. Once it's docked, that uploads it to evidence.com. So while we were doing this, I was assuming that that video was going to be uploaded, and then I wanted to get to that to see what we could find out.
So you gave the body cam to Sizemore.
Yes.
Sizemore took it to Beachside?
Beachside precinct.
She docked it. What does that mean? Is she just plugging it in, or what? What does that mean, docking?
There's like banks of almost like a battery, maybe for like a power tool or something. You just plug it in, and then the light comes on it, and you can see that it's uploaded.
So it's uploading and charging?
Yes, also.
Okay. And you said it's a secure area. What do you mean?
It's secure to get into the precinct, but then also there's a closet. It's upstairs. You have to use your key card to open that to get access to it. And then you have each platoon's got a different section for their cameras.
Is this something that's done every night at the end of shift, typically with the officers in their body-worn cameras?
It is.
Did you view that video?
I did.
So there was a video.
Yes.
Where did you view it?
Initially, when I was at the hospital, I couldn't get service, so then I went to our main station at 129 Valor, and I was able to access it from there.
Let me stop you. When you say you didn't get service, that means you couldn't get the internet?
Correct.
You have to be on the internet in order to tap into evidence.com?
Correct.
So you did that?
Yes.
And you watched the video?
Yes.
Was it helpful in identifying a suspect?
Yes.
So what did you do? You watched the video. What was it you did then?
Everyone was on the radio. They were all trying to figure out what kind of suspect we had. So as soon as I could get to a frame where I could get a picture of something, and I started with the vehicle, I would email that out to department-wide and also to the Volusia County Crime Center, so they could send it out further than that. And then as I went, I took a picture of the suspect, did that also. Meanwhile, asking if CID could assist with downloading the whole video. I couldn't email the whole clip. It wouldn't email.
Right, that's like too big of a file or something, is that
Correct.
right? So, but you were getting pictures out of the car, is that right?
Of the vehicle and the suspect.
And the suspect. Do you know if somebody used those pictures to help identify the defendant in this case?
I know they were used to identify him.
Okay. Your Honor, may we approach for the moment? Yes, sir.
Recess, about 15-minute break for you. The lawyers and I have a little bit of work to do. 15 minutes, we'll talk about it. All rise for the jury. Okay, the jury's out. You go ahead and call for the evidence.
Sergeant, have you, in your 21-plus career, how many times would you say you've come into contact with marijuana?
Hundreds, maybe, over 1,000, a lot.
Okay. Are officers trained in how to recognize marijuana?
They are.
Tell me what you're looking for to try and identify or recognize what could be marijuana.
There's the sight of it, and also there's got a very unique pungent aroma to it.
Okay, so describe like you say visually. What are you looking for?
We usually
Marijuana.
describe it as a green leafy substance, but there's also buds and stems and seeds.
Okay. And as far as aroma, burning or non-burning or both?
Both of them do. The burnt marijuana obviously has a stronger smell to it.
Or is it, you're the sergeant that was in charge of this squad you testified to. Did the officers that you supervised have training in the recognition and observation of marijuana?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that marijuana is, that a police officer is going to routinely come in contact with marijuana during the course of doing their job every day?
Yes.
Is that true for you?
Yes.
I think you're going to go further. Say that marijuana was visible, which is what we do.
Your Honor, there is the video, which hasn't been introduced yet into evidence. And this is disputed, of course, but there is what we believe to be in the defendant's hand, what appears to be a marijuana cigarette. Now, they could argue it's something else, but we believe that, and we believe that based on that plus, as we had said earlier, I think your ruling was we couldn't talk about, you know, what's marijuana regarding, you know, the Snellville search warrant.
Right.
But we believe that that would be relevant because it's an additional layer of possible suspicion once Officer Rayner made contact with the defendant. And you can see, while I'm sure they're going to dispute it being marijuana, I think you heard it in their opening statement, I think it's fair game to at least make the arguments. They make theirs, we make ours.
Well, how can we go with it?
Yes.
All right, I guess in terms of what's before the court right now on a proffer, my objection would be that it's completely irrelevant. I don't know where we're going to go. There's not been a demonstrative proffer to the board or a portion of the video where there's going to be any particular identification. There's been no testimony from certain circs about any contemporaneous conversation on June 23rd about marijuana. So what we anticipate to be the case is 2.5 years after the shooting, then marijuana becomes a factor in the case, and they're trying to backfill in that, oh yeah, it must have been marijuana, but there's no real-time memorialization of any marijuana being suspected. There's nothing before the court to determine whether he's going to testify to it.
Your Honor,
I don't know enough information.
Your Honor, may I briefly respond? Today, right now with Sergeant Searce, all I'm asking is to discuss how they might recognize marijuana. We have other witnesses, and when we introduce the actual video, then you can see visually what we're talking about.
Well, I'd rather have them come back and talk about this, after we look at the video, and I can have
Yes, sir.
a better feel for whether or not they, you know, what you're trying to claim that marijuana, there's some sort of basis to it.
Yes.
Without knowing exactly what it is that you're going to show, I can't determine whether or not this is relevant. As of right now, there is no relevancy because there's nothing
Yes.
on the record that indicates there was marijuana allegedly on the defendant's hand.
Yes, sir.
So for now, I'm not going to exclude it,
Yes, sir.
but I'll prevent you from using it until it becomes more relevant or we can talk about it. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Let's take our break.
Okay.
50, take about 15 minutes. All right. jury.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness. I've shown the defense counsel that. Your Honor, this has been marked for identification purposes as State Exhibit I. Officer or Sergeant, do you recognize this photograph?
I do. It's Officer Jason Rayner. Officer Jason Rayner.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of the Officer Jason Renner that you know?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm asked to be able to move it into evidence.
No. Without objection, we admit it.
And Your Honor, may I publish it to you?
From that point, yes. We're gonna approach it with very close.
Tender the witness.
From examination.
Good afternoon.
So you likely underwent a considerable amount of training in your 21 years of law enforcement, correct?
Yes.
One of the most important tools of a law enforcement officer is the powers of observation. Do you agree with that?
The what?
Powers of observation.
Sure.
And part of your training, it's ongoing, is to develop how to discern between what could be potentially innocent conduct or what could be criminal conduct, right?
As far as being part of it? Yes.
Yeah. You're trying to hone those powers of perception so that you can key in on something that might lead to an arrest or a further investigation. Do you agree with that?
I do.
And that's what BOLAs are used to assist in, correct?
Yep.
You would agree that it's equally as important for law enforcement to train their powers of observation so that they do not overextend and capture innocent folks that might be at the wrong place at the wrong time?
Say again?
Do you think it's just as important to use your powers of observation so as to not unnecessarily involve someone who's innocently looking like a suspect or in an area where there was a recent call for service?
I don't know how you'd be able to determine if someone is or isn't.
Well, let's say, for example, you're familiar with this crime bulletin that went out, right?
Yes.
Right. And the crime bulletin talked about the vehicle, this gray SUV, right?
Gray Honda CRV, you think?
All right. And would you agree that based upon this information that any black female or black male in their 20s would be subject to seizure and interrogation in the city?
No.
Okay. And that's because it would be unreasonable to just capture every black female and black male in their 20s, right?
Right.
In fact, an appropriate thing to do would be to look at the specific information in the BOLO and apply that to the observations, right? You would want to take in, you wouldn't just pull over.
You're not saying that you weren't mentioning that they were in a vehicle, right? You're just saying a black male or black female anywhere?
Right. That would be inappropriate to just pull over every black or black male or female in their 20s to look for the stolen vehicle, right?
Well, if they're in a vehicle that appears that it could be that vehicle, then you would investigate that.
Right. And the question becomes how close to that description is a reasonable pursuit or an unreasonable pursuit of that vehicle. Do you agree with that?
As far as what's reasonable and what's unreasonable?
Right. You're trying to use as many details as possible to determine whether it's reasonable to pursue this car further, correct?
Yes.
Right. And for instance, if an officer was going and looking for this 2014 CRV and they plainly saw that the vehicle was an HRV, it would be unreasonable to pull that car over.
If you knew the difference,
So the point is, as a law enforcement officer, it's important to try to discern between the specific information so that you don't capture someone or hassle someone that's not worthy of suspicion.
yes. And I also know that sometimes bolos are close, if you're just getting it out through the air or whatever, so they're not always 100% accurate, but if you know the difference, then yes.
And you train your officers to make sure that they are reasonable when they're approaching citizens, right?
Yes.
You're not telling them, hey, if you're in the ballpark of a description, go ahead and stop her, right?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to that characterization in the ballpark. I think he asked specific questions.
It would be inappropriate if you learned that one of your subordinates was engaging in a practice where he was just being reckless with the information in a bolo and pulling over everybody that got close to the description, right?
Well, you're saying got close, and then you're saying reckless. I wouldn't put them together. If it's something close, and I believe that they're acting in good faith, then yes, that it would be okay to contact them.
So the issue is, how can you determine what's close and what you should disregard, right? That's what on the scene observations come down to as law enforcement officer.
Yes.
Did you investigate any portion of this case? Like, were you tasked with investigating anything, or were you just more of a first responder?
First responder, and then once the video portion was sent out, I was done.
In terms of police and citizen encounters, they're governed by policy. Like, there's policy about how a law enforcement officer at Daytona Beach is supposed to interact with members of the public.
Yeah, as far as your demeanor and, you know.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the relevance.
Can we approach on that? Sir, you mentioned a policy about being courteous to members of the community.
Yes.
And that involves advising a citizen, if practical, about the reason for the contact or the reason for them being detained.
It's not spelled out in any sort of way like that.
There's no policy at all that talks about giving a citizen a reason or explanation for an officer contact.
If you reach to a point where they're detained or not detained, you know, you're already at that point where you're going to tell them why they're detained. But just coming up to talk to somebody, you don't have to automatically just say what you're thinking.
Understood. If someone gets pulled over, are you suggesting that there's no policy that requires an officer to advise the citizen about the reason for them being pulled over?
Now, I don't know if that's in policy or not, but it is good practice if you stop somebody on a traffic stop, to inform them of the reason of the stop.
And similarly, would you agree that there are times when it would be good practice if you're encountering a member of the public outside a traffic stop to advise them of what you're looking for or the reason why you're contacting them?
It would be on the time as far as how you feel officer safety wise. A lot of times you don't want to point out something that you see that may be potentially something that may lead to an arrest or could be dangerous. You don't want the suspect to know basically your cards at that point until you can safely proceed.
And I think what you're getting at is that it's not unreasonable for some people to perhaps be nervous or on edge when they're dealing with law enforcement.
Some people are nervous.
And also what you just described would be a kind of de-escalation, right? You don't want to go and confront a person right away. You want to have a more tactful response.
It depends on the situation, really. I mean, if you have to take immediate action, then you take immediate action. But I know it's good practice for officer safety wise. If you see something in a car, I may not point that out to that person right then and there that I see something, because I know I might need someone else to help come and detain the person, or the fight could start, or they could flee, and those kind of things.
And obviously, when you're arriving up to the point where you need to determine what information to give, you've already processed the situation and have time to reflect on it before you're getting involved, right? You're having some time before you're contacting somebody to see if they match Ebola, to see their demeanor, to assess which tactic you're going to use when you're contacting them.
Not at all. It flows as far as like if you're getting out to talk to somebody. I don't, depends on what you see, what you're picking up, maybe what you smell, maybe what you hear, and things like that. There's no, not like a robot where I proceed to this point, I must say this. You're still processing maybe what you're seeing.
You're familiar with the term high-risk traffic stop?
Yes.
That is one that involves guns, right?
We'd call it a felony stop, yes.
Multiple officers would be involved?
Yes.
It would be against the best practice to go and make a possible encounter with a high-risk vehicle alone and without any notice to your fellow officer?
No, not if you just stumble across something. You got to take action. I mean, if you think there's a felony in progress, if you can safely make that time to get other officers there, and to tactically approach a vehicle, then of course that would be something you can do if you have that time.
Sure. I think the operative term there that's used would be, there's a difference between you stumble upon something versus you have some opportunity to observe it and then perhaps call for dispatch or make it different.
What I'm saying is if you're driving up and all of a sudden it's dark and you're seeing like, oh, that vehicle looks familiar. Mm-hmm. So now you're into investigation mode to kind of like, what, I don't know what it was.
Sure. And you would agree with me that there's no possible way that when Officer Rayner was driving on Kingston Avenue that he saw Othal Wallace in the parking lot behind Kingston Avenue?
I couldn't say what?
You can't say that when Jason Rayner was driving on Kingston Avenue on June 23rd, 2021, that he saw Mr. Wallace's vehicle from Kingston Avenue.
I don't know when he saw, like where it was parked, and if that was where he was on Kingston, no, you wouldn't probably see it. You couldn't see it. It's all blocked off.
So
but if I can't say that he didn't see the car pull in. That's what I'm saying.
Do you have any information that would suggest that Officer Rayner saw the car pull in?
No, but that's what I'm explaining.
You would agree with me that there was no 911 call placed by any member of the community complaining of anything that Othal Wallace did on June 23rd, 2021?
I don't believe there was any calls.
There was no 911 call by any person in Daytona Beach complaining of criminal activity or suspicious activity at 1:30.
Your Honor, I'm going to object that he might be outside the scope of his knowledge. Any call at any time that night, that community.
I'm not aware of the background and who knew the defendant and who didn't. I can just say that night when it all happened, I don't recall, and I don't remember seeing one, that there was a call there for that.
Do you believe that the Daytona Beach Police Department did a full and thorough investigation into the shooting of Jason Rayner?
I do.
Your Honor, objection.
Okay. And in connection with that full and thorough investigation, you would agree with me that the basis of the encounter is a central role to everything that we're talking about here today.
The basis of the encounter.
Why Rayner went back there, right? Is that an important issue? Why Rayner went back there?
It's part of the issue, yes.
Okay. And just so we're clear, there's no 911 call complaining of Othal. There's no 911 call complaining of anything at Kingston Avenue, right?
No, but there had been plenty of complaints in that area.
Okay. Can you point to a specific call that took place on June 23rd, 2021, to which Jason Rayner was responding to that led him to the back parking lot?
No, I don't know why he was back there at that moment.
All right. You're not familiar of any citizen flagging Officer Rayner down and telling him to go back and make contact with Othal Wallace?
I'm not aware of that.
You're not familiar with any facts that would give Jason Rayner probable cause to detain Othal
I'm
Wallace?
going to object to the sustained.
May we approach? Were you familiar with the existence of this, be on the lookout for the stolen vehicle prior to the situation with Officer Rayner?
I was aware of the vehicle, yes.
And you would agree with me that there are distinguishing characteristics between the issue, the vehicle at issue in the Bolo and the vehicle that Othal Wallace was driving that night?
I don't know the differences. There's so many new cars and they're similar in so many ways. So I could easily get them mixed up. I know they end up being two different vehicles. I don't know how similar they are.
And you would agree with me that the best practice would be for an officer to use as many of the powers of observation as possible to discern between whether a car that was going to be approached was the Bolo vehicle or was not the Bolo vehicle?
If you're just making contact to see what you may have, I mean, the vehicle was backed in. I believe that's the major difference between the vehicles versus what the front of the vehicle is.
And is it your testimony that the vehicle being backed in made it absolutely impossible to distinguish between the Bolo vehicle and the vehicle that Othal Wallace?
I don't know if you could say impossible. Like I said, I don't know the vehicles well enough. I don't know.
Are you familiar with any person within the Daytona Beach Police Department that investigated the reason for Rayner going and making contact with Mr. Wallace?
I don't know all the details of the investigation.
You mentioned before that when you came up on scene, you made contact with some officers that had been the first responders, right?
Yes,
One of those officers was Amanda Dickens.
yes.
You agree with me that Amanda Dickens at no point in time told you, hey, Rayner just said he was going to look for that fresh signal net?
I don't know what she testified to or if that's what he said to her.
I'm sorry if you misunderstood my question. My question is, let me back up. Do you have a recollection of when you first got into the parking lot on June 23rd, 2021?
When she was there, she was tending to her friend that was been shot. So no, we didn't discuss anything about a vehicle.
So before, when Ms. Lores was asking you questions, I believe you testified something about you had contact with the officers and they gave you information, right?
They were trying to get information from him.
And you asked Amanda Dickens what information that she had pertinent to the situation.
Not directly to her, no. I was on scene.
Would it be unreasonable for a law enforcement officer possessing information about their fallen colleague to relay that to somebody like yourself in the situation?
You're talking about reasonable when her friend and zone partner had just been shot in the ground and was in the shape that he was in. I don't know what we consider reasonable of what her response would be about anything.
I think that's fair. Are you trained as a law enforcement officer to deal with high-stress situations?
We use simulations and stuff to try to recreate them, but it's not the same.
So do you think, is there a lesser standard that an officer is held to if they're in a stressful situation as opposed to a non-stressful situation?
That's just plain human nature and how your brain works. You have fight, flight, or freeze, and some of your forebrain can start to take over in some of these situations. So where once you calm down, you can think clearly again.
But we can be in agreement that Amanda Dickens never told you anything about this Jason Rayner going to look for a stolen vehicle.
I don't recall that conversation there.
Are you familiar with any subsequent report that Amanda Dickens drafted memorializing that statement?
I don't.
And you sent out the photographs obtained from the Axon, and then you didn't have any other further involvement in the case, is that correct?
Not that I recall, no.
Just a second.
January 20th.
I think he was, yes.
The witness has been sworn. Loud and clear.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Would you please take a moment and introduce yourself to the folks here before?
My name is Sergeant James Maher, M-A-H-E-R.
And where you work?
I work for the City of Daytona Beach Police Department.
How long you been with Daytona Beach PD?
14 years since 2009.
Did you have any prior law enforcement experience?
No, sir.
So your entire career has been with Daytona Beach PD?
Correct.
Any military experience?
Yes, I was in the U.S. Army.
How long were you in the Army?
3 years.
Walk us through, educate us about the different roles you've had, from when you started to where you are now with the Daytona Beach Police.
So initially when I started, I was a patrol officer. I ended up on a bicycle unit, which is a proactive unit on bicycles. I went from there to the crime suppression team, which is commonly referred to as like a street crimes type unit, prostitution, narcotics. From there, I transitioned to the investigation side. I was a property crimes detective and worked my way up to homicide. I was a homicide detective. I worked for the higher level narcotics unit after, the special investigations unit, and a violent criminal apprehension team, which is kind of like a fugitive unit and CST type unit. For a short period of time, I was cross-sworn as a U.S. Marshal during the fugitive side of it. And pretty much the entire time, not quite all 14 years, I think it's 12 years now, I've also been on SWAT.
What's SWAT?
SWAT is Special Weapons and Tactics. It's a unit designed to handle high-risk situations, whether it's a search warrant deemed high risk, not all search warrants, barricaded subjects, hostage situations, things of that nature.
Did you mention CST or crime suppression?
I did, sir.
What is the purpose of that?
The crime suppression team's purpose is within its name to suppress crime. It's a proactive unit that utilizes crime statistics, typically from CompStat, which is a meeting that we have weekly, to identify crime trends and try to curb the trend.
Okay. Kind of keeping an eye on the community and where crime's happening,
Correct.
and so that you can allocate resources to those areas that need it because of the crime occurring?
Correct. That would be the idea of CompStat.
Yes. Were you a patrol sergeant?
I was. At some point, I was promoted to sergeant. I went back to patrol for 6 months, and then sergeant of crime suppression team, and then sergeant of violent criminal apprehension team.
How long have you been a sergeant?
4 years. I've been a sergeant for 4 years now.
Okay, and part of your duties as a sergeant, you train other officers?
Yes.
Are you familiar with proactive policing model?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Proactive policing means engaging in policing, looking for crimes that are occurring, keeping them from occurring, instead of the reactive side of it, which would be more like a fire department, if you will, wait for a call, then respond.
So you're not out there waiting for somebody to flag you down and say, hey, we need you. Is that
No.
right?
No, not on VCAT or CST, no.
Okay, so to talk about CompStat a little bit more, you said you look at crime trends. Can you be a little bit more specific about what y'all look?
So, as far as CompStat goes, it's a bi-weekly meeting, but also weekly is a staff meeting. It's pretty much the same thing. We'll go over that period of time, whether it's that 1 week or that 2 week period of all crimes that occurred within the city. It's for accountability purposes as well. All the command staff is there from the chief down, including the district captains. and so that everybody's on the same page, everybody understands where these crime trends may be, and then each unit is held accountable, whether it's the Criminal Investigation Division on where they are on a certain crime that occurred, DCAT, what we're doing to curve the trend, or patrol to step up patrols in the area.
Were you working the night that Officer Rayner was shot?
I was.
In what capacity? What were you doing?
I was the crime suppression team sergeant.
Okay. Did you have any contact with Officer Rayner?
No, not that night, no.
But you were on the same shift?
No, so I wasn't on the same shift. I was working the same night. Patrol works different shifts than crime suppression team. I was a completely different unit.
Okay. What area were you working?
That night I was what's called District 1. So Daytona is broken, as far as law enforcement goes, into two separate districts, East District 2 and West District 1. There's railroad tracks that run north and south through the city. I was working west in District 1. Jason was working east in District 2.
I want to talk to you a little bit about earlier in the evening before Officer Rayner was shot. Were you aware of a bolo about a stolen vehicle, a Honda CRV?
Yes, I was.
And how did you become aware of it?
Through a bolo that was issued through city email.
Okay. And at some point before Officer Rayner was shot, did you actually spot what you believe might be there?
Yes, I did.
Where were you?
West International Speedway Boulevard.
Okay. And so what did you do?
So the vehicle was slightly ahead of us. It was a silver Honda. I knew that there was a silver Honda SUV stolen with a paper tag. Positioned my vehicle to the point where I could see the rear tag. It was not the tag. It was a California tag. So I didn't do anything. It wasn't the stolen car.
And that Volvo had the tag number, did it?
It did.
And so you were able to actually see the tag and determine it wasn't a stolen vehicle, correct?
Correct.
So what'd you do then?
I don't remember.
You did patrol or work?
Nothing with that vehicle. Correct.
Okay. So did there come a time when you became aware that there might be some concern for Officer Jason Rayner?
Yes.
And talk about that a little.
So as I spoke about before, Daytona is broken into two different districts. It's also two separate radio channels, primary radio channels that we use. They patch the channels together, which usually means something is happening. I also have a secondary radio that I use that talks around just my unit, so we're not tying up primary police channels. My unit started scrambling and headed towards that area, and I still hadn't been 100% sure what happened. I went to the area. I saw a patrol officer on a perimeter somewhere in the area of Madison and Ridgewood, and I asked him, "What are we working?" And that's when he told me there was an officer down, officer shot.
Okay, so at that point, what was going through your mind? What did you do?
Going back, I mean, at that point, all I was thinking is, let's secure this perimeter. Let's make sure that we get dogs on the ground, that people inside, give us our best chance possible to catch this person without anybody else getting hurt.
Okay, and so, is that what you did?
Yes.
Okay. Did you, at that night, were you involved later, involving another Honda CRV?
Yeah, so.
Honda vehicle?
Correct. I don't know if it was a CRV or HRV. Later on, as information began to come out, the bolo was given for a silver Honda SUV. I started looking for a silver Honda SUV for the person that shot Jason, and I found a silver Honda SUV backed into a driveway with the lights on. As soon as I saw the vehicle began revving its engine, and somebody came running from the inside of the house where it was backed into and yelling, and I don't remember exactly what they were saying, but something along the lines of "my babies." The vehicle then took off, past my police vehicle, which was marked, and I engaged the attempt to traffic stop the vehicle. I ended up in a pursuit, believing it was the vehicle that had been involved in the shooting.
So at this point, you think you might have the the suspect who shot Officer Jason Range?
At that point, I was convinced, yeah.
Yes, sir. Based on the description or based on the photograph that you had?
No, I didn't have a photograph. There was a bolo given over the radio. I didn't actually have a photograph of anything at this point.
So you were going by the description?
Correct.
In the vault. Okay. Did you make contact? What happened? Give us through what happened with this vehicle. Did it stop eventually?
Not willingly, but it stopped. It stopped eventually. It ended up in a police pursuit. I immediately notified all surrounding law enforcement that I thought I had found the Honda. It was fleeing from me, that I was pursuing him. We fled through what we call 45 zone at Daytona Beach, which is the northern end of Daytona Beach, through a lot of residential back roads at a lot of high rates of speed. Eventually, we started working our way towards an area of Nova Road, which is more commercial and businesses area. The vehicle slowed down to turn into a Checkers or restaurant parking lot. I hit the vehicle from behind, disabling the vehicle. Occupants of the vehicle began running. We captured them, and it then was determined this was actually the stolen car that I was thinking about earlier, not the shooting vehicle.
Now, you had mentioned that you work with the crime suppression team. You're the sergeant, CSD, and also work with SWAT.
Correct.
Are you involved in training your officers as well?
I am.
Okay. And what's your goal in training the officers?
To accomplish our job in the most professional and safe way possible.
And what is your job?
Our job at the end of the day is to make sure that Daytona Beach is safe.
Were you familiar with 133 Kingston in that area?
Yes, the 100 block of Kingston I'm familiar with.
Okay. And why is that?
So Kingston, since I told you about 45 zone, this is 41 zone. This is also on the north end of the city by Ridgewood, towards the river. This is a high crime, high narcotics, high prostitution area. An area I was definitely and still am familiar with almost daily.
Okay. And when you're faced with a high crime, high drug area, how does proactive policing become involved in it?
So, especially in high crime areas, the proactive end is what tries to return quality of life to an area that's having an issue. Proactive policing it's such a broad term.
How do you employ it in your duties with your fellow officers at the Daytona Beach Police?
So as far as proactivity goes, if I'm trying to curb an issue, a broad issue, one of my favorites is accuracy by saturation or saturation method, which is when I bring my unit to a specific area with an issue and we enforce every violation they can find, whether it's a tint violation, a stop bar violation, a speeding violation, whatever it may be. We find that, in my opinion, it's like 5% of the population causes 99% of the crime. So if we do 100 traffic stops, we meet, and this is, again, my numbers, my opinions, we meet 95 individuals who are good law-abiding citizens. We create contacts. We put lights in the area deterring crime. And then we have that 5 or 10 that, are up to criminal activity that we are able to engage at that point.
May I have a moment, Judge?
Yes.
Permission to approach, Your Honor. Your Honor, I've got what I believe to be state zeal for identification purposes. This is a composite exhibit. Would you take a moment? Sir, just a second. Do you recognize it?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
So this is the vehicle that I pursued, this is the stolen vehicle that I pursued, believing that it might have been the shooting vehicle.
Okay, that was kind of at the end of the evening, after you had seen a vehicle that you thought was a stolen vehicle and it wasn't. And then this time you saw a vehicle you thought was the shooter's vehicle, but it was actually the stolen vehicle. I don't know, did I get it right? Is that right?
I'm sure you did. I'll just reiterate because I was, initially in the daytime, I saw a silver, gray, whatever, Honda on Speedway Boulevard. I knew about a stolen one. I got behind it. It was a California tag, not a Florida paper tag. I left it alone because it wasn't a stolen vehicle. Jason was shot. Bolo was issued for a silver gray Honda. I found a silver gray Honda, fled from me, chased it. It was the stolen car, not the shooter.
Okay.
This is the stolen car.
Are these fair and accurate representations of that vehicle?
Yes.
Your Honor, that will have to move these into evidence.
Any objection?
Yeah, Your Honor.
Without objection, it will be admitted as evidence.
And Your Honor, I'm like Sergeant Sirs, I need a little help. We're going to put them on, with your permission, publish them to the jury. Okay?
You want to go through them?
You know, this was at the, what did you call it, the Checkers or something?
Yes, sir. This is at the Checkers where the vehicle became disabled.
Okay. Good.
All right, thank you. If you don't need it, give me the.
Yes, sir. We'll do that now. You need the TV.
Good afternoon, sir.
So you knew Mr. Raymond very well, is that right?
Yeah, I knew him pretty well.
When the day of June 23rd, you did not see him there?
No, not that I remember. I don't remember the last time I saw him.
You had no conversations with him that day?
No.
And you had no idea why he went back behind 133 Kingston Avenue?
No.
You do, Mr. Rayner's practices as a patrol officer?
Fairly well. I think I was his sergeant for, back when I was on patrol, I was his sergeant for, I want to say less than 6 months, but 6 months is a good.
And would you classify Mr. Rayner as being
Yes, Jason was proactive.
I think you actually wanted to be probably reviewing the phone call.
He did.
And then on the 23rd, you, the only thing you did was apprehend a stolen vehicle from previous.
So it wasn't the only thing I did all day long, but as far as what we were talking about, yes, that's what.
You searched around, but you didn't find any evidence.
I didn't find any evidence that night. I did help with the perimeter, go to a location south of Daytona.
And Coach Warren, we have one of the photos from what was just under the evidence as 610. That's the photo of the car that we
Correct.
And then we have another one that was marked, it hasn't been put in evidence yet, but the identification purposes states right?
Yes, sir.
Do you see any differences between those two?
Yes. So this is me assuming, because I wasn't here with this photograph. I'm assuming that this is the shooting. This is also vehicle California tag. This is the stolen car without the bumper.
And do you see a difference between the rear door, the door?
Yes.
Quite a big difference, isn't it?
So I remember it's called the one with the California tag has no rear door handle, and the stolen car has a rear handle on the car, or door handle on the car.
And the area at 133 Kingston Ave is a high crime area?
It is.
And you said that you like to go into saturation, which means pulling a lot of people over for various reasons.
So saturation, really, the way I have 6 officers, I think it is 7 officers that work for me. We work in a small group. In other words, not necessarily, I'm not going to say we're going to go to Kingston, the 100 block of Kingston, but we'll go to the 41 zone, that general area, and do a lot of stops, a lot of interactions, lots of lights in the area. That way, we're there if somebody needs backup, but also it disperses any potential crime.
So you're out making contact. Look, most of that saturation, are you're pulling people over, you're making contact with people. Is there a lot of just going up and saying, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? Where are you at?
So consensual encounters happen. Yeah, absolutely. I would, most of the time, it really depends. I mean, it really depends. I wish I could give you an answer on statistics, but it really depends on the situation, whether we're making consensual contact or, this is a traffic stop with reasonable suspicion.
Well, can you explain what a consensual encounter is?
Yeah, absolutely. So consensual, as a law enforcement officer,
Judge, Your Honor, be honest here.
So, have you made what you just determined, what you just called consensual encounter in that?
yes.
Right, and what's the, if it's not a consensual encounter, then you're pulling somebody over for probable cause or reasonable suspicion.
Correct.
And when you pull somebody over for one of those reasons, probable cause or reasonable suspicion, you have your lights on, right?
Yes, to activate the stop.
Yes, you have to do that. But in your words, as a consensual stop, you just come up and make a contact with the person, right?
So anytime it's consensual, I even teach my officers purposely not to block the person and to not turn their lights on. It's consensual.
And have you been in the location of 133 Kingston recently, from June 23rd around that time? Have you been there?
I don't know that I was in that exact parking lot, but that general area, yeah, absolutely.
When in words as a consensual stop, you just come up and make contact with the person, right?
So anytime it's consensual, I even teach my officers purposely not to block the person and to not turn their lights on. It's consensual.
And have you been in the
I'm sorry, one more time.
Yeah, when you went to Georgia, were you there when Mr. Wallace was at right?
So I was there. I was present. I wasn't on the compound. I was just outside of the compound.
And at some point, did you and I believe it was Officer Cassidy, did you contact Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
That's all I
Thank you very much.
Subject to recall.
Subject to
Okay, we'll call Mary Toledo.
I don't believe so.
I do. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi, can you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name too for us?
My name is Mary Toledo. Last name's Teasin Tom, Alluto.
Are you working at the Daytona Beach Police Department anymore?
Currently, no.
You're retired?
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you tell us how long you worked at the Daytona Beach Police Department?
22 years.
What sort of capacity did you work there?
I started off in patrol. I moved to the bicycle unit for about 12 years. I was also on motors, crime scene, and I finished my career as a detective.
Was that a detective in the major crime unit or on the outside?
As general,
Let me bring your attention now. Were you still working at the Daytona Beach Police Department on June 23rd, 2021?
I was.
What capacity did you work on that day?
Actually, I was at home and I got called out.
What was your job assignment during that time window?
Oh, I was in general CID.
General detective, right?
Correct.
And what does CID stand for?
Criminal Investigation Division.
What happened? Were you like on call, or why did you get called that night?
I got called by one of the supervisors that an incident had took place and that they needed some assistance.
How long did it take you to get from your residence to, I guess, you know where you went to?
Yeah, to Kingston.
How long do you think it would take you to get dressed and, I don't know what you do?
I probably was there within 30 minutes, not less.
When you arrived, you've heard a lot of testimony, but what did you observe about the scene when you arrived?
When I got to the scene, Officer Rayner had already left. At that point, the scene had been roped off, and I made contact with my supervisor at the time to find out, I kind of got just a basic call, just get dressed and get here kind of thing, and I'll tell you what's going on when you get here. So when I got there, I spoke with the supervisor. He said that, an officer had been shot, and we were still working on trying to identify the suspect.
When you say the scene was roped off, what does that mean exactly?
It's taped off and basically under Daytona Beach's control the area so that nobody can just freely walk in and out of there.
Is that sort of evidence and scene clarity?
Correct.
What were you assigned to do when you got there by your supervisor?
Basically, do another canvass of the apartment complex. Make sure that we didn't miss anybody that may have seen something. Make sure that anybody that could have seen something, whether it be important or not important, that we spoke to them.
So I understand what canvas means. Can you explain in just lay people's terms, the description of what that means?
Canvas is going to be just knocking on doors in the area and just saying, hey, this is who I am. This is what has happened. This is the time frame that it happened. Did you see anything before, after, during? Just going right down the list of anything in that immediate area, talking to anybody there.
Were you assigned to do that at 133 Kingston with the apartments there?
I was.
Did you make contact in apartment number 8 with Aisha Lewis?
I did.
Upon making contact with her, did you have a conversation with her?
I did.
In the course of your conversation, were you provided any information by her that led you to bring up a photograph?
Yes.
What name did she give you?
She gave the name Othal Wallace.
What did you do at that point when the name was brought up? Did you bring a photograph?
I did.
Did you show her that photograph?
I did.
Based on your, police work, your skills, and while you're talking to Ms. Lewis or during that time, did there become more information provided from Daytona Beach with a picture of the individual who was involved with this, shooting officer?
Yes.
Were you able to make a comparison and kind of put two and two together?
Yes.
While you were talking to Ms. Lewis, at some point, did you see her get a text with a photograph of her phone?
Yes. A group text message was sent out. I believe the police department released a snapshot of the suspect from Officer Rayner's camera. They gave it to the apartment complex management, and the management company sent out a mass text to all the residents, basically saying, hey, this is the suspect of the incident tonight. Does anybody recognize him?
What was her reaction in front of you when you saw her view photograph?
She looked down at her phone and said, oh my God, that's my boyfriend.
Did you relay information about Othal Wallace being the suspect in the case to the detectives?
Yes, I called Sergeant Karcher and Detective Denardi.
Yeah, just a moment. Yes, she can be released, Judge.
Yes.
Yes, sir, she's from out of town.
See what don't mind the lead. And we approach the off the window. Actually,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's the one you for the police officer, you told me how a weapon was hurt, or it's a dummy weapon, not a real weapon. So they will have to check that out. Are you ready to see?
Thank you, Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please state your entire name and spell it for the report?
Monica Lee, Monica. Last name Lee.
And are you a law enforcement officer?
Yes, sir.
And what's your current rank?
I'm an officer.
Where are you a law enforcement officer?
Daytona Beach Police Department.
How long have you been there?
17 years.
Any experience at other agencies or all of Daytona Beach?
All at Daytona Beach.
And what's your permanent assignment at the department?
I'm in the training unit as the Axon administrator.
And what is the, can you tell the story what the training unit is?
We train in-house and new recruits on, show them the ropes of the job, firearms, defensive tactics, OC, EVOC.
You're going to need to say what the abbreviations mean. You say OC and EVOC?
Yes, so the pepper spray and evasive driving.
I think you said it just a moment ago, but that includes firearms training.
Yes, sir.
And in regards to the firearms training, does it include how to properly draw a holster weapon?
Yes,
Did you bring duty belt with you to that?
I did.
Can you tell the jury what is a duty belt?
It's a thicker leather belt where we keep all our gear, all of our equipment on that belt.
And would every officer on duty, uniformed officer, patrol car have on duty belt?
Yes.
What types of things do the officers put on duty belt?
Firearm, OC, taser, handcuffs, pouch for medical gloves, latex gloves, handcuffs, a radio, an asp.
And was an officer trained, when you're training them about drawing a weapon? Is that all part of duty belt training?
Yes, it's part of firearms training.
How long have you been doing that, approximately?
About 12 years.
And along with the duty belt, did you also bring up the dummy firearm?
I did.
What do you all use the dummy firearm for?
To practice drawing the gun.
From a holster?
Yes, and for scenarios. So if we do scenarios, we use the blue guns instead of live guns, just so that our scenarios are like in a safer environment.
And is the blue gun, in terms of its dimensions, meant to mimic an actual firearm?
Yes.
And you had to bring the duty belt up with you?
Yes, sir, I did.
You had your bag already?
Not yet.
You had your bag. Judge, I'd ask if she'd be allowed to step down to demonstrate some things about the duty belt to the jury. You can just come right out here. Is that okay, Your Honor?
Yes, so long as it's not pointing.
Yes. Right here. So just first point out the holster generally for the jury.
So this is a holster we use, it's we call it a triple retention holster.
Why do you call it a triple retention holster?
It's 3 steps to get it done.
Can you take us through those steps? Let's start with the very first step, an officer would have to go through the next spot.
So you have to get it done and push down on a button, and then you have to remove the hood, and then there's another button here. You have to push down on that button to remove the gun.
I need all faster. Show us just the first step. What's the very first step?
The button to push down.
And the second step?
The hood,
And the third step?
another button.
Before the firearm can be removed.
Correct.
Thank you. You can understand. Now I want to talk about one of your other job responsibilities, you said Axon Administrator.
Yes.
What is Axon Administrator?
So I oversee all the Axon body cameras in the department.
Let's talk about those cameras a little bit. Who's assigned Axon videos, body cam videos in your department?
All sworn members.
So again, we already talked about the duty belt, but the duty belt with a patrol officer in a marked car have an Axon.
Yes.
And where do officers typically wear those Axon?
On their person, preferably on their chest. All patrol guys wear them on their chest.
How are the cameras maintained or kept up to date with current software?
So every time they dock their cameras, it's updated automatically with the current firmware.
And if you have a technical problem, a camera's not functioning, you actually send it back to the Axon company?
We do.
So you're not going in there with tools trying to repair the cameras yourself? You have a problem.
Never.
You said they did an update to the docking, that also has a charge.
Yes.
And how long does the charge typically last on an Axon?
An entire shift, so it'll last 12 hours.
So is that also the kind of recording capacity, can record up to 12 hours straight?
Yes.
Do the Axon cameras and videos accurately record the date and time?
Yes.
When an officer is responding to a call, how is the camera, how would an officer go about activating it?
They would have to double press the circle button in the front of the camera.
And did you bring an Axon camera with you as well to demonstrate for this jury?
I did.
Jeremy, she sat down and just showed the jury an Axon camera.
Yeah, I got up last time.
So, I'll ask you the last question. What are we looking at here?
The body 3 Axon camera.
Is there anywhere on that camera like a screen that an officer could look at, video being taken or anything like that?
No.
Where is, can you point out to the jury where, is this the front, is this the front of the Axon camera?
Correct.
So an officer would be wearing it in the center of his chest or his chest?
Yes.
And where is the activation button?
This big circle button.
Does an officer have to press it 1 time, 2 times to activate it?
2 times.
2 times to activate it, so a double tap?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Counselor Lee, are there events other than the double tap by law enforcement officer that will cause the Daytona Beach officer's Axon to go on automatically?
Yes.
Is one of those called a signal sidearm?
Yes.
What is that? What does that mean, signal sidearm?
It's a device that's mounted onto our holsters.
And what is the purpose of that device that's mounted on your holster?
So when you draw your gun, it'll activate your own camera and other cameras around you.
So, if you were on duty, hypothetically, and your body camera wasn't recording, and you drew your firearm out of the holster, you would start recording?
Yes.
And if I was on duty with you and I was standing, say, this far away, would my body camera also activate?
Yes.
And when an officer activates his camera, let's go back to just the double tap. When an officer double taps that camera to go on, does the camera actually record video even before the double tap?
Yes.
Can you explain that to the jury, what that is?
So it's a 30-second pre-event buffer where it records visually and audio.
So again, going back to our example with the signal sign-on, would it also go back 30 seconds there?
No, it would not.
Okay, let's say it was double tap. So if you and I are on patrol, and I double tap my Axon camera, it actually goes
Sorry.
back.
I'm going to retract that. It would do the buffer.
Okay, it would do the buffer.
Yes.
So in the example of you drawing your firearm, the camera goes on.
Yes.
And it would happen 30 seconds prior to you drawing your firearm.
Yes.
But it also works that way with the double tap.
Yes.
Now, is that sometimes that 30 seconds, sort of 30 seconds back in time, is that sometimes affected by something called sleep mode?
Yes.
What is sleep mode? And why do you have it?
So sleep mode is when we put our cameras into, it will not automatically activate with the signal sidearm or anything else. So you would actually have to manually activate your camera with your hand in order for your camera to activate on sleep mode. We have sleep mode in case officers are in the locker room or going to the bathroom or taking a private phone call, and then their cameras won't automatically activate on them while they're having privacy.
And going back to our example of us being on duty together, if I have the camera attached to my chest, but it's on sleep mode, and I double tap to turn the camera on, will it give me those 30 seconds before?
No.
And is that because of the sleep mode?
Yes.
I'm going to get a little ahead of myself. Was Officer Rayner's camera activated on June 23rd, 2021? Was his camera on sleep mode?
Yes.
When an officer is finished, let's say an officer finishes their shift, what do they do with the camera at the end of their shift?
They upload their videos,
And how do they do that?
either with an Axon cord or the docking station.
So same docking station where it charges?
Yes.
Is it the same docking station also where it gets its updates as well?
Yes.
And once they dock that camera, what happens to the video? The video of that incident, let's say, combat.
It goes into evidence.com.
And do officers tag their videos?
Yes.
How do they tag?
They're tagged either on evidence.com or through their cell phone.
And when I say tag, what is that?
It means putting a case number and a title to their video.
So an officer, if they say they pull somebody over speeding and they have to upload their actual video, they put the agency number from that speeding stop.
Correct.
After an officer, when an officer uploads a video, docks and uploads, can they edit that video in any way?
No.
And do officers have the ability to see their videos before it's done through their own cell phones?
Yes.
And how does that work?
So it is through a Bluetooth connection with the body cam and the cell phone, and they can view it on their cell phone until they dock it. And then once it's docked, it's completely deleted out of the cell phone, so it's in evidence.com.
Okay, so once it's docked, the video is no longer there, it's in only evidence.com.
Correct.
And were you the Axon administrator back in June of 2021?
Yes.
To your knowledge, was Officer Patrick Burleson equipped with an Axon camera the night the officer Rainer was shot and killed?
Yes.
To your knowledge, were the contents of his Axon camera uploaded and tagged in relation to this case?
Yes.
Did that Axon camera accurately record the date and time?
Yes.
Were there any technical problems that you're aware of or issues with Officer Burleson's camera on June 23rd?
No.
Did Officer Burleson's camera, have you reviewed the footage from Officer Burleson's camera?
Yes.
Did it capture his finding Officer Jason Rainer behind 130 degrees?
Yes.
Approach witness, Your Honor. Approaching states and your identification. And your name. Do you recognize that DVD?
I do.
How do you recognize that DVD?
It's got my initials on it.
Does it also have a date?
Yes.
Have you watched the content of that DVD?
Yes.
What does it contain?
It has Officer Erlinson's finding of Officer Rainer on it.
Is it a shortened version of Officer Burleson's body worn camera video from that night?
Yes.
So it's a minute and a half, 2 minutes long, something in that regard, does that sound right?
Yes.
And is this video that was on this CD consistent with the video that was uploaded by
Your Honor, I object under Crawford, unavailable, or testimony available. I will be there this second.
Judge, at this time, we'll move to publish, but now the evidence exceeds the lead for the jury.
Essentially at 10:30, that's correct. Where is he? 5-7 Central Rescue Code. Where is he? Second gunshot wound. Who shot him? Come on, buddy. Hey, it's gonna be all right. Yeah, officer down. He's shot. Where's it at? Hold it, buddy. Hold it. Hey, just talk to me, man. Talk to me, Jay. Where's the guy who shot him? Who shot him, buddy? Oh, man. Just hold on, buddy. Just hold on. Central Rescue Code 3. See if we can air it. Oh my goodness. Get something to hold pressure. Just hold.
He got my shirt. He got my shirt. He got his shirt. He got my shirt. He got my shirt.
Hey, 10-3.
Damn, man.
Gunshot wound to the head and one on chest. Come on, man. Just keep talking to me, buddy. Just keep talking. Get rescue here now. You're gonna be all right, buddy.
And in that video, officer, does the jury actually see Officer Ellison with his firearm drawn?
Yes.
To your knowledge, is Officer Rayner equipped with a body worn camera when he was shot on June 23rd of 2021?
Yes.
Were the contents of this camera uploaded and tagged in relation to this case number, or did the only use the case number?
Yes.
Was his actual camera also placed into evidence?
Yes.
Did Officer Rayner's Axon camera accurately record the date and time on June 23rd of 2021?
Yes.
Were there any technical problems with Officer Rayner's camera the night of the shoot?
No.
Before going into the actual video, I want to talk to you a little bit about Axon audit. What is an Axon audit?
An Axon audit lists all the events that occur when an officer utilizes their Axon camera.
Would that include, for example, if it was in sleep mode?
Yes.
Is that in fact how you know that Officer Rayner's camera was in sleep mode that night?
Yes.
Is another one of those things that the Axon audit will capture the signal sidearm notification?
Yes.
And it'll capture that regardless of whether it's in sleep mode on the body?
Yes.
After the recording of Officer Rayner's interaction with the defendant at 8:36 p.m., are there any signal sidearm notifications in his audit?
Yes.
And what time is that signal sidearm notification is in Officer Rayner's audit?
I would have to look at the audit to get the exact time.
Do you have it with you?
Yes.
To refresh your recollection, take a look.
Yes.
Defense, do you need to see?
No, that's fine.
Audit sheet? Can you refresh your recollection, Your Honor?
It was at 8:54 and 47 seconds.
Between 8:50 and 36 seconds, when the video starts in relation to this incident, and
between 8:50 and 8:54, no, sir.
Are there any notifications that the taser was drawn and charged on that officer?
No.
Is that something the audit would also capture?
Yes.
Now, in preparation for your testimony in this case, did you take a close look at the timing of Officer Erlinson's video in relation to that signal sidearm that's indicated on the audit from Jason Rayner's body-worn camera?
Yes.
And what did you discover?
That it was about the same time.
So when we see the officer, when the jury sees Officer Erlinson draw his gun running out to Officer Rayner, that's the signal sidearm we see in Officer Rayner's audit?
Yes.
Let me go back now and just talk to you a little bit more about Officer Jason Rayner's body-worn camera. Was his camera docked in the video operator?
Yes.
And that very night was that video disseminated to detectives and investigators immediately after y'all got it?
Yes.
And approach your honor?
You may.
Showing you now with mark for identification that states M as in Mary. Same questions, do you recognize that DVD?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
My initials?
Does it also have a date?
Yes.
On that date, did you review the contents of that DVD? And what does that DVD contain?
Officer Rayner's interactions.
Is it a fair and accurate representation of the body-worn camera video that was uploaded from his body-worn camera?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time I move states M as in Mary in that instance.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Without objection, the bid is
Your Honor, this time I would move to publish dates 12.
How's it going? Do you live here?
What's going on?
Do you live here?
What's going on?
Sit down. Sit.
Sir.
Can you sit down? I'll talk to you. Stop.
Come on now.
Sit.
Come on now. Don't do this.
Sit down.
Why are you asking me, do
Sit
I
down.
live here?
Do you live here? Yes or no?
What's going on though?
Who? Charlie 777.
Nah, back up.
Stop. Stop, man.
In preparation for trial, you didn't close the trial date. Did you send a copy of Officer Jason Rayner's Axon audit from that night to a Brian Child of the Axon company?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'll hand it over to Sam.
cross-examination.
Excuse me, TVs.
Hello.
Stated that sleep mode is used for when you are resting and laughter and things like that.
We're on a private phone call.
By the phone call. policy on putting your accent on speakerphone?
It's that. It's for the officer's privacy.
So, when you were looking at your audit trail earlier, right?
Yes.
Could you, tell me, if you know the answer, why every time Officer Rayner gets done with a call, he puts his accent camera on speaker?
I cannot speak for him.
Is that a violation of policy?
I don't know what he was doing.
Well, if you were to look at, item 160.
Yes.
And his recording stopped from he pressed it previously and then he stopped the recording at that point?
Yes.
Recording stopped. And then we look at item 167, 848, at 4 p.m., sleep mode enabled, right? So we put it in sleep mode at that time.
Yes.
Let's go back to item 145, recording stop. Is that correct? And that's at 8:28, 28 seconds.
Yes.
And then we go down and at 8:31 and 13 seconds, sleep mode enabled. And that would have been, I should say, item 152.
Yes.
Let's look at item 129. Recording stopped due to button press. That's at 7:52. And then item 136, 7:53, sleep mode enabled. Is that common?
If he's making phone calls, I don't know what he's doing.
And when you, the nice thing, I guess, about enabling the sleep mode is it alleviates the 30-second buffer, doesn't it?
Yes.
So we don't have any idea what happened 30 seconds before Mr. Rayner enabled his recording at the 8:50 mark, I believe, 8:50 second mark, which we just saw, correct?
Yes.
So because he keeps putting it in sleep mode, we don't get to see that 30 seconds leading up to when it's the recording actually starts. So we missed the 30 seconds of video, right?
Yes.
And then you stated that the sidearm, does the sidearm activation start when you push the button, when you push the latch forward, or when you do the third part, or is it before you actually pull out the fire?
Could you repeat that, please?
Well, it's a three-step process to get the handgun out of the holster, right?
Yes.
So you stated that when you have a sidearm alarm, that it starts, does it start recording when you push the first button? When you do the second phase, which is move the latch forward? Or is it the third phase when you hit the third phase, where you hit that button? Or is it when the gun actually comes out of the holster?
When the gun actually comes out of the holster.
And then as far as the taser alarm actually doesn't start or go off until you actually discharge the taser, is that correct?
No.
When does it come out?
When you turn it on, it activates the cameras.
When you turn it on, or when you take it out of the holster?
When you turn it on.
Well, the gun doesn't turn on until you take it out of the holster,
Correct.
but the taser turns on earlier?
The taser, when you turn the taser on, it activates the cameras.
So you'd have to have the taser out of the holster, turn it on, and then you, then it starts recording, right?
Yes.
So by moving the latch on the taser forward, that would not start the recording.
No.
Yes.
And I like to know.
Any redirect?
Yes. Officer Anderson may set it up across, but you don't know what Officer Raymond was dealing with anything that night, with no idea, right?
Correct.
And in terms of the signal sidearm notification, is that a fairly sensitive sensor in terms of what makes notifications?
It can be.
Are there even times where a rattle is caused, the signal sidearm to go off?
Yes.
By rattling, it basically jostling the belt and holster.
Yes.
Anyone over here?
Yes.
Officer Lee, I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
All right, any witness be excused, stay?
Subject to recall.
You still on this week? Another witness? It's 4-5. I think I'm gonna.
We have like a 10-minute witness judge, we can knock him out, if that's okay? Yeah, I'm gonna work quickly. Not for a minute, Matt. Forrest, Ryan Forrest, Officer Ryan Forrest.
I do.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name?
Sergeant Ryan Forrest, Forrest.
Where do you work, sir?
Work in the city of Daytona Beach.
How long have you been there?
I've been there since 2012, so 11 years.
If I could take you back to June 23rd, 2021, where you worked that night, sir?
Yes, sir.
What capacity?
At the time, I was a regular patrol officer. I was working on the west side, Charlie Ship.
Can you just explain to the folks where the west side would be?
The west side of Daytona Beach. Daytona Beach is split into two at the railroad tracks. So everything west of the railroad tracks is considered the west side, and I was working on the west side of that.
Would that have been the area, maybe to the strip of lights for folks driving down 95 where the Buc-ee's might be?
Buc-ee's, Tanger Out.
Okay. So in that area?
Mm-hmm.
At some point, did you hear a call on the radio?
Yes.
What did you do when you heard the call about the radio?
So I happened to actually be in the area of the tanker outlet. I heard Central come across the radio and say that an officer was down. They didn't really have a lot of information at the time. They said there was an officer down.
What did you do in relation to that?
I just kind of like listened to the radio a little bit more, and once confirmation that there was an officer down, units started responding down there. I went directly to the hospital instead of going to the scene. Generally, usually we do have shootings in Daytona. We send somebody to the hospital for security, family, to get a statement from the victim, notify the hospital that this is coming in, those type of.
When you arrived at the hospital, did you speak to the head nurse to notify what was going on?
I did speak to the charge nurse and told her that we had an officer down and coming in.
Did you stand by at the hospital so Officer Rayner arrived?
Yep, after I told the charge nurse the ambulance actually had called in, I waited by the trauma doors for Officer Rayner to get there.
Did you see Officer Rayner when you arrived?
Yes.
Were you present when the clothing from Officer Rayner was collected and was provided to you?
Yes, it was.
Yes. I'm going to show you what they mark as States K. You take a look at these, sir. See if you recognize them. Are these the clothing items that you collected that you use, sir? Yes, sir. Outside of them being on in plastic on a board, is to be in the same or substantially the same condition? Anything changed or altered about them? At this time, Judge, will say in the States K. Okay. Composition. Can I accomplish this, please, Rayner? Now I'm showing you what's in evidence or the sort of key. If you can just is this Officer Rayner's uniform similar to yours? Is this the top of his uniform?
Yes, this would be the standard issue Class B uniform that is issued to all officers.
I'm showing you what would be the second part of the composite. This is would be his pants and stuff.
Pants, looks like a keeper and a shirt stay.
When you collected these items, sir, where did you take them?
I was requested to, I was handed the items at the hospital. I took them, they were placed in a brown paper bag. I had to bring them to the courthouse on Ridgewood Avenue. For FDLE was responding to take them back.
Did you respond to the courthouse at Ridgewood Avenue?
I did respond to the courthouse, yes.
Ultimately, and folks don't really know where the courthouse is. That's the main courthouse for the Daytona side of Louisiana County.
Yes.
When you arrived there, did you have anyone from the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Initially, no. I had to go pick up, there was another piece of evidence I had to pick up. I did then respond over to the area where I met Deputy Cartagena from Orange County.
Did you provide him this uniform and also that subsequent item, which I guess was the hat?
Yes.
Take the FDLE in Orlando?
I did.
And did they transport that to you all?
Yes.
Was there a helicopter involved to try to expedite this?
Yes, there was a helicopter involved to get these items up to FDLE.
Yes.
No further questions, Judge.
Any cross-examination?
take any, and I certainly understand it was chaotic night, but did you take any photographs of either the pants or the uniform prior to collecting them for evidence?
Not.
In any degree optimal, best practice would be to take photographs before collecting and putting them in.
It was already in the bag.
Okay. And that would have been this bag right here?
That is correct.
Okay. And so the submission was in the bag, and then this is for presentation purposes and for, right?
Yes.
Do you have any specific information about why Officer Rand responded to 132?
I'm going to object outside the scope of relevance.
There's a knife in the pocket.
Yes, there is.
Is that a standard issue knife? Do you know anything about?
It's not issued by the police department. However, we do carry knives for a multitude of things, general tools. And
Nothing further on. Thank you.
No, sir. Yes, sir.